Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Man in America. I'm your host, Seth Holhouse. So, look, I'll be the first to admit that as excited as I am to see the positive changes over at Twitter, I don't really trust Elon Musk. Not only is he deeply involved with the DoD, but just about every initiative he's working on is accelerating humans towards a transhuman future, which is not really a good thing. But he recently made an announcement about Twitter that really caught my eye, that his number one priority is putting an end to child sexual exploitation on the platform. Because if there's one thing that anyone can do that could earn my respect, it's protecting innocent children. So on today's show, I'll be joined by influencer and researcher Mel K to delve into this dark underbelly of Twitter and explore whether there's more to this story than meets the eye. But before we get started, today's show is brought to you by Rise TV, a Patriot-owned streaming platform. Over at Rise, our mission is to uncover the truth. No matter how dark and difficult, we're always holding on to hope. We have a massive content library and an amazing community of patriots you can interact with during every show. There's a link for a free trial of Rise TV in the description below. You should check it out. I know you're going to love it. Also, make sure you're following me on Telegram, Truth Social, and Gab at Man in America. You can also catch every episode as a podcast if you just want to listen. The links to the podcast and social media are all in the description below. Or just search for Man in America in your favorite podcast app and make sure you leave me a 5-star rating. It really helps me to reach more people. Also, folks, food prices are going up, energy prices are going up, gas prices are going up, and inflation's not going away anytime soon. Right now, the real rate of inflation is closer to 25%, not the 8% the White House wants you to believe. You can see this with your own eyes and in your own wallet. What this means is that if you had $100,000 in your savings account just 1 year ago, today it's only worth about $75,000 in terms of your actual buying power. Your money is losing value by the day. If you went back to 1920 and you had a $20 bill or a 1-ounce gold coin, you could walk into a men's clothing store and buy an entire suit, jacket, shoes, pants, belt, everything. But think about this. What would a $20 bill buy you today? Some socks? A handkerchief? But an ounce of gold will still buy you that same suit. This is why I believe that now more than ever, it's a good time to consider transferring at least some of your wealth into physical gold and silver, real world assets that have stood the test of time. And for this, I'm confident in recommending Dr. Kirk Elliott. Kirk has 2 PhDs and is an incredible Christian patriot who's dedicated to helping you break free from the trap of inflation. You can buy gold and silver directly, even in small amounts, shipped to your front door, or you can transfer your IRA into physical gold and silver with 0 taxes or penalties. Kirk Elliott is who I use, he's who my family and friends use, and he's someone I trust completely. When it comes to your wealth, you need someone you can trust. So to learn more, open up a new tab right now and go to goldwithseth.com or call 720-605-3900 to speak to a real person right now. Kirk Elliott's team will answer all of your questions and take care of you every step of the way. Again, that's 720-605-3900 or goldwithseth.com. All right, folks, let's get started with this interview. All right. So Mel, I have to say it is absolutely wonderful to have you here. I've done your show a few times and we've been waiting to bring you on here, but it's great to have you. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, thank you so much. What's great about you and me is we kind of had another life, and then we started kind of this life at the same time with the Man in America and the Mel K Show, and we interact a lot and we meet up here and there. I know your wife, you know Rob, and it's kind of been like every time we check in with each other, it's like, how you doing? How you doing? We're doing okay, I guess.
I know.
It's been an amazing journey, but it's been a pleasure to also become your friend, and I love your show and what you're doing. So I'm really honored to be here.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I first heard you on SGT Report probably 2 or 3 years ago, I think. I was like, who's this Mel K chick? She's got some great insight on things. So yeah, but well, we've got some crazy stuff to talk about. I know that, you know, one of the big, you know, the elephants in the room that we've seen, and a lot of people that understand what's really happening in the world have seen, is child trafficking, child pornography, you know, the entire pedophile rings, and that's not even getting into the, you know, satanic stuff and all that, which is a whole other can of worms. But we had some pretty significant news happen, and I'll bring up a tweet here to show. So Elon Musk, which, you know, to me, like, I have a lot of opinions on him, And there's so, especially if you look at the transhumanist stuff, there's
Right.
so many red flags, but I'm still not saying, I'm not casting him in, the only bad bucket, because he can still play, I think, a positive role at this time in history. And we know that, even looking at the Wayfair, thing with the child trafficking, Facebook, we know that these big platforms have been used in some form for child trafficking. But what's interesting is that this tweet just went out recently, and this woman has said Elon Musk has been addressing the issue of posting child sexual exploitation content on Twitter after years of the platform's inactivity on the subject under past management, which, and there's a lot of instances to show that that's absolutely true. They did nothing about it. Yet scrolling down here, Elon Musk replied to that tweet and said, priority number one. So that's really, really interesting. He didn't just reply to it and said, yes, this is important for us. That he said it's priority number one, which is
Yeah.
just interesting. So I first want to get your take on what you think is happening over at Twitter, but then, I want to dive deep into this topic with you. And similar to like FTX, it's the tip of the iceberg of this massive criminal underbelly that's of this world. But the crazy thing is it's no longer being hidden in the ways it used to be able to be hidden, and we're seeing it. So what do you make of this that's happening over at Twitter right now?
Well, the first thing is we don't know what Elon Musk has seen behind the scenes. Okay, because
Good
there
point.
was a lawsuit filed by multiple children that were sexually exploited, and it ended up on Twitter. And it was John Doe number one, if anyone looks it up, versus Twitter. And
Actually,
there's
I have it
multiple
here.
people.
Right. This is a Blaze article they're talking about. It said that it says whenever discussing the issue on Twitter, one can't ignore the case of John Doe 1 and John Doe 2. Actually, I'll pull
Right.
this up. It says that so in 2021, Twitter was sued by minor survivors of sexual exploitation. Their sexual exploitation video, which had already racked over 167,000 views and over 2,000 retweets, had been reviewed by Twitter after multiple reports. So this was a case of there was literally a video of these, I think 12 and 13-year-olds engaging in sex acts that was going viral on Twitter. Twitter saw it and refused to take it off. Right?
Yeah. And it's not just one or two. There's a lot of more cases out there, also similar cases at Facebook. Now, the crazy part is when we know about the censoring, I was kicked off right after 1/6 for sharing Donald Trump's tweet about peace, and I'm still permanently banned. So God bless people that are getting back their platforms, and we'll get into Elon Musk in a minute and my feelings about why. But we do not know what he saw when he lifted the veil behind the scenes. We know that at first he was keeping the content regulator guy, EOL, whatever his name is, and then suddenly fired him. Now, I do want to say about that lawsuit, one thing that we know for sure is that when they were sued and they were fighting back against the lawsuit, they said that they could not proactively identify this kind of content, and it was inconsistent with adult content, and that they couldn't really detect when it was because that child sexploitation is awful and sick, but so is unconsensual sex on there. And there were several hashtags which in the last week have been eliminated, but they were out there for years. They're the same hashtags you could also use, honestly, on Google to find child porn and on Facebook. A very disturbing aspect of the case that we're talking about with right now is that those hashtags, which we won't repeat because unfortunately, if you put them into Google, they still will bring you to some of these sites. But Twitter would go further and suggest other things to search when you put in those hashtags. And this was well known. But here's the thing, they could find content from people like me sharing Donald Trump, or from any of the people that have been suspended or permanently, or suspended now for 2 years or a year or whatever, that said anything about transgenderism or biological sex or about ivermectin or any of that. They could find that, no problem. But apparently they couldn't find rampant child porn. The other thing that was going on there was child trafficking and child sex trafficking. So all of this was happening all these years while they're standing the moral ground. Jack even tweeted about it kind of, off the cuff, jokingly a couple times in the past. And yet it took until this past 2 weeks. So yes, Elon Musk is going after that. But at the same time, he's also, we don't know what he's seen. And I really hope that this is the beginning of him taking a proactive role. I've said for years that I think no matter what you think of Elon Musk, he has, I think now 8 kids and seems to be very allowed. And like, as he put it in the tweet about Alex Jones, that he lost his first child and knows what it feels like to lose a child. So was damaged by
Oh,
that.
yeah.
He has one child that's doing the transgender thing that's come out against him, which I'm sure is devastating. And I say the same thing about Donald Trump, which is he has 12 grandkids. Elon Musk has all these kids and hopes to have grandkids and seems to really love his children. And that's where we can all meet in the middle. So as far as this is a big step for survivors that have been fighting. A lot of survivors of child trafficking, sex trafficking were also kicked off of Twitter for bringing it to light, or bringing, all the people that talked about the rings in DC. And when you bring up this whole thing, we have to remember that child sex trafficking, child trafficking, and trafficking in general, sex trafficking especially, is often tied to very high level rings that are not just about the children. A lot of them are about blackmail. A lot of them are about, as we learned with the Epstein ring, which is gigantic and is connected to everything else. But a lot of them are about slavery, about cartel business, about child porn. I mean, it's such a big industry, and I'm glad it's being brought to light. But we have to wait and see. I mean, look, Elon Musk restoring 5 celebrity accounts, basically, doesn't say to me, oh, look what's happening. And people should also keep in mind, he is the richest man on the planet. And as much as everyone's cheering him on, he also has a lot of Defense Department contracts. He's very intertwined with people all over the world that are involved in the public-private partnership that most of my content's about, World Economic Forum, IMF, all of that. And look, we're in a very corrupt, very upside down world. To be a billionaire in this world, you have to play the game. To be the richest man in this world, you have to really play the game. So I think the jury's out on him, but what he's doing so far is a great step in the right direction.
Which also makes me think it's good to hear your perspective because it keeps something for me. It's like I wonder if you know like I always ask, are people really taking a positive step? Right. And maybe I become so jaded. Right. And look, I'm a really happy, positive guy. And I've met you in person. I know you are too. And, it's like
Right.
big hugs and smiles.
Yeah.
But there's also part of me that's like, yeah, like, okay, where's the catch? Where's the catch? Right. Especially with these big public figures, whether it's Kanye coming out or, just I'm always looking for that, which I think is also good because you end up catching it a lot of times. But I wonder if maybe there is a positive force that's gaining traction and gaining foothold in the world, and that we're seeing all these indicators. Like, look at Disney just firing their CEO, right? Who we know was really pushing this woke agenda. Maybe the tides really are starting to turn, and the evil is really being exposed. I mean, it's an interesting thing to think about. But when you mentioned him and his children, and because people were asking about bringing Alex Jones back on, and that made him talk about his child, and he said, "Look, how I think it was his first child died in his
Yeah.
hands, and like he was there for the last heartbeat." It's like
Yeah.
I don't care how evil somebody is or how controlled somebody is. Like an experience like that, that's something that touches you in your soul and could very well like change you for the rest of your life. So it's hard to say, but something that you alluded to is just the bigger picture of this in the rings. Like right now, what we have coming to light is it's not just Twitter, which what we see happening here, which in a certain way, this almost proves that Twitter was knowingly allowing this because like they could say for years, oh, we're trying to fix it. We can't fix it. We're trying to. Couple of weeks, done. Okay, there's your proof that you weren't actually trying to fix it.
Right.
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 But the bigger picture for this is as you see more of this coming out, you look at the FTX, you look at the ties to Epstein. A lot of people at one point were talking about Pizzagate, right? And it was the media and everything attacked the idea so aggressively that powerful people in our world might actually be involved in child sex trafficking rings and pedophilia. And for this to be allowed at Twitter seems to hint at that. I mean, I would say that there's probably some high level decision being made that's saying, hey, please allow that. But how deep does this go? Like how big of the criminal underbelly world is the child sex trafficking exploitation? Like, what's this look like?
Well, I think it's massive. And one thing we really do have to pay attention to is that Twitter, when confronted, said that Twitter could not accurately detect child sex exploitation or non consensual nudity at scale, but they could detect anyone questioning the COVID protocols or
Yeah,
anyone questioning climate
the
or
election. Yeah,
anyone questioning or supporting loudly Donald Trump and 1/6. They could find them, which tells you it's a total lie. And so there's the first thing. The second thing is, and this is a lot bigger. I actually started when I left Hollywood. I left because of many things, but I felt that the whole environment there had changed so dramatically from when I first moved out there and started working in the business, that it had become such a predatory situation out there. I felt that it was the satanic stuff, which we don't have to get into, it's a whole nother show, but the loyalty to Satan and all this craziness, that it was initially about the idea that they were sexualizing children and pedophilia and child trafficking and all of that, without even a question of, where is this going? And people were acting like it was normal, and it wasn't normal. And for most people that watch me, they know I had an interaction when I was 19 with Epstein and his ilk and his friends. One of my mentors, until about 10 years ago, when I started to really see through this, is one of the top 5 most powerful people to this day in Hollywood. I know a lot of people that were involved in a lot of this stuff. I had been at parties at a big director's house with, children there with their manager, at midnight, with people around there drinking and doing drugs, and nobody acting like anything was wrong, just to keep fitting in. So there's been a lot of disclosure of stuff that, certain people have been out there talking about, and it can't be stopped what is going on. It is too much out there. And I just sincerely believe that the whole cryptocurrency thing is going to connect. There's Darren Beatty and like nobody else, because he's usually the only one brave enough to say a lot of things, but he's going to connect this tether. That's another FTX situation that's about to implode, to child trafficking and Jeffrey Epstein. And the problem also is that a lot of the people at the very high levels, they have disappeared, been silenced, all of that. I know a lot of people are excited about the 8 names that are going to be released from the Epstein Gouffre case, but there are thousands of names, and this is what I'm saying about Twitter. Okay, you're going to bring back some celebrities and you're going to do this, but at the same time, there are millions of people all over the world. Anyone that questioned the Ukraine-Russia thing was basically banned from Twitter. Anyone that questioned, or even seemed to say, well, what's the other side of the story, or question NATO, was banned from Twitter. But child trafficking and sex trafficking, and apparently people should know, Twitter, before Elon Musk bought it, had like a red team that was coming up with a behind the paywall thing on Twitter that was similar to OnlyFans, that would be adult content. But they had a hard time scaling it. They were going to monetize adult content on Twitter. And most people out there think it's this benevolent thing. And then when you're watching all the celebrities melting down, many of them, God willing, we'll find out someday. I don't have that much hope, but many of them are complicit in Epstein's crimes and that ring that included Weinstein and Clinton and all of them at the very top. Bob Iger might be coming back in, but be careful. Everyone at the very top of the spear in Hollywood has something to hide. But again, we are at a place where at least it is cracking through. But I think we got to give it a wait and see, because there's way more that should be being exposed. And I will tell you from my own experience, there are a lot of people working in Hollywood still that belong in prison, and nobody's doing anything, and they're throwing Weinstein and Epstein, to the wolves. Just last week, a brave journalist asked Bill Clinton about his 27 flights, which are the only ones we know about because he flew on Epstein's plane, not all the other times he didn't. but or went to New Mexico or to the New York City house, and he said he laughed and said the evidence is out there and walked away. And this is what we're dealing with, a level of criminality that is being accepted. We have not seen justice in so many cases now in the last, almost 20 years, and one after another. And I think the American people are at a place where they're numb. And being numb is the most dangerous place we can be.
I mean, I agree, and it's tough to not be numb sometimes because you see these heinous crimes being committed, and yet you see people like the J6 folks that are still rotting in jail, right? And it's almost like, and I think part of it is that they're doing it on purpose. So it's part of the demoralization. It's part of the really breaking down our faith in the system, our faith in governance, et cetera, which is what they want to do because that way it's easier to lead us into the one world government, right? It's like, oh,
Right.
okay, well, yeah, of course, they've lost trust in their own governments because now they're heading towards this. But with something that I've had to understand in this process of just kind of waking up is that a lot of times the evil is hidden in plain sight, and it's right in front of us, but we don't see it. And for a lot of people, if you say, "Oh yeah, they're actually you're using Twitter to traffic children, or using Facebook to traffic children," it almost seems so absurd. It's like, well, why would you use a public platform like Twitter to traffic for human trafficking? But with these hashtags, so I mean, what kind of a role do you think the platforms like Twitter, Facebook, et cetera, what role did they play? And like, how does that even work? That you like just use a hashtag of like, buy a kid, like hashtag buy kids, and you find something. I mean, how is it that the police aren't identifying this, and because it's right out in the open?
Well, first and foremost, we have to be honest about what Facebook, Twitter, and Google are. They were all invested in by In-Q-Tel and the Department of Defense and DARPA. They are track and trace surveillance mechanisms. People can believe that what they want to believe, but they should do their own research and look into the lie that is Zuckerberg, just like the lie that is Bankman-Fried. We are dealing with massive scales of mind control and manipulation, and a lot of times these people that we're dealing with that I believe are the real enemy of humanity, of our country, but of all free nations, they like to show you what they're doing. They do not hide it. It is part of this psychological aspect of these sociopaths. And I truly believe that this is part of how they do it, is they put it out in plain sight. And if you don't see it, that's your problem, but if you do see it and you're the wrong person, you speak out about it, they'll destroy you. And it's hard because I am very, very close with Kathy O'Brien, and she is a true survivor. And I will tell you, not only has she never been sued or questioned, and Mark that saved her was General Kino, who's the Mind Wars MK Ultra Satanist that ran our PSYOP division of the military for decades. But she talks about this a lot, and she was sold to the CIA when she was 3 years old because her father got caught making child porn of her. And this is a big problem, and it's been for a long time. We know about the finders. We know, now they go back to the McMartin case, and you kind of got to look at it. There's tons of survivors have reached out to me. I've had on plenty just to get the voice out. I have a good friend who made a documentary, 26 Seconds. There's a whole bunch of versions, of episodes of that in all different aspects. I just think that people, like I say about a lot of things, people don't want to see evil, and they'd rather just act like it's a conspiracy theory or it doesn't exist. I think it's massive, and I think that there's multi-layers to it, and there is these kind of sociopaths and psychopaths, they get something from doing it out in the open. And that is how I feel about even the World Economic Forum and Harari standing up there and talking like he does about transhumanism and God being dead and God's a myth and we are God and what are we going to do with these useless people? They say what they mean. They say it in the open. They say it with arrogance. And most people look at it and think that's absurd. That's not real. Yeah, it's real. And I think that that's the good thing that's happening right now on many fronts is people are starting to have to be uncomfortable enough to acknowledge that something is going on and it's very nefarious. And like I said, a lot of the child trafficking, child exploitation, besides, And people have to understand that don't get this. If it's the cartels or it's high level blackmailers like Maxwell and Epstein and Maxwell's father, and who's connected to all kinds of intelligence, or any of the people that did that, we know, even in the origins of the FBI that come from, the Masons and all of this, and Albert Pike, that a big part of it was using children in terrible situations, getting people on camera, and using that against them for life, which is why I have been saying since it happened. First of all, I was in Palm Beach. My parents lived there when the first arrest of Epstein happened, and I also worked at Mar-a-Lago. I knew one of the girls that was trafficked, and it was at this high school right outside of Palm Beach. He was very open about it. People knew, everyone knew. Donald Trump did, in fact, I know because I was there, ban Epstein and Maxwell, and no, he never went to the island, whatever. You can say what you want, but at least be factual. But the truth is that case was almost ignored. And then he came back on the scene, and people should be taking a look at who, after Epstein got out of jail, then came around him, celebrities and all of that. But the footage and we know that they have the footage. There was a blackout in New York City right after he was arrested. I was told by, people that are very high up in the NYPD and other people that was the night that they went in and they dismantled hundreds of cameras and all kinds of things in Epstein's house, took out a lot of evidence. There was a safe with discs and hard drives and photographs. Then they come back and say that they disappeared. Why is the FBI sitting on this evidence? So if you want to know how high up it goes, we should be looking at the FBI and demanding to know where the evidence is from the Epstein Island. We saw them carry boxes and boxes of stuff off the island. Everyone basically admits, and now Maxwell's being repositioned as some kind of heroine within prison and a victim. Oh my God, this is such a travesty. And then on top of that, what's awful is that we have a situation where, we know that our government is sitting on not just Hunter Biden's laptop, hours of footage and pictures and hard drives of all of Epstein's properties now for 10 years. And again, that's how high it goes. And so, and the cartels, they don't care. And these children, people have to understand, you can sell drugs and make one hit. You can sell a child hundreds of times, thousands of times. And a lot of these children are then killed after. And it's a horrible thing. And the worst part is it's worse now, slavery. Everyone talks about slavery. Slavery is worse on this planet than it's ever been, ever, because of technology, because of this ability for people to interact like that. And if we don't have any justice in this, don't forget, there's a guy that was in the inner circle of the Clinton Foundation, Nasser, who went to jail. And he was connected to Epstein. There's pictures of him on Epstein Island with Bill Clinton, with Tony Podesta. These are real pictures. They were in court. He was arrested and put in jail for taking a child, I believe 11-year-old boy, as his companion on trips around the world. And then when they took his phone filled with child porn and bestiality, and it just went in the memory hole. And you bring it up to somebody, that's conspiracy theory. No, there was a court case. So I think people have to be way more proactive, because here's the worst part about the Epstein-Maxwell blackmail ring, because that's really what they were. They were terrible child traffickers, and they were children, not 15-year-old girls, but also boys and children. But on top of that, we really have to understand that they were middlemen. They were middlemen. They were not the top. And I'm telling you that a lot of this crypto stuff that's about to unfold, this tether that's coming up, that's connected to the Den and Collins Rector and Brock Pierce and all these people that have been accused of high-level pedophilia in LA. And then Brock Pierce, who runs Tether, ends up on Epstein Island for a conference on Epstein Island. All of it's connected. The whole crypto thing, all of it. This is how they're doing it, and they're doing it in our faces, I think, because that's what they do.
Gosh, there's a lot to unpack there. I mean, one thing I'll just comment on that you said was just how people don't want to acknowledge evil. And I think that's really true. And that's something that, I used to read a lot of Jordan Peterson's work and watch a lot of his lectures. And that's one of the big takeaways from him. And also from, reading folks like Solzhenitsyn or, Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl. I think a lot of people, especially good-natured people, don't want to acknowledge that they are, even they are, have the potential to be that evil. Like it's like,
Yeah.
every man has the potential to be infinitely good and infinitely evil, and it's that avoidance, it's not looking at it, that really gets us to where we are like this. And so I think that, but going back to something else that you said, talking about the bigger picture and how deep this goes, especially as it gets into crypto. I had John Perez on recently talking about FTX, and I think that like we're just seeing again the tip of the iceberg with this. That like from what I'm piecing together, that there's these massive human and child trafficking rings, pedophilia, etc., and it's tied into crypto and money laundering and blackmail. But one question I have with this, so I really want to hear your thoughts on, is why do you think it's children? Like like for me, like as a healthy male, and you look at some of these people that are involved in this, they're handsome, successful people. If I was like that and say I had some really devious desires, well, maybe I'd have beautiful women everywhere. Do you know what I mean? Of course, I'm not, but like I can't see why someone would cross that line into children. And then let alone getting into some stuff actually that Kathy's talked about, because I interviewed her as well recently, and she's an incredible woman. But getting into the this child sacrifice and this, I mean, it's such a deep hole. But why, like, why is it that in our world that now it's that human slavery is the greatest it's ever been, and why a lot of these people are children? And I guess I because I like to look at the psychology behind this and what leads to this. And like, what do you think? Why is it that children are living in a world where they are the prey? Like where even the school teachers and the principals and the police that should be protecting them are complicit a lot of times in trafficking, abusing, killing, kidnapping. Like, how do you make sense of all this?
Well, I think we really have to look back to the beginning of a lot of this behavior, all the way to the very beginning. And the truth is that if you get the children and you destroy the children inside their psyche and their ability to function, as Kathy or some of the people from the Rainbow Cultural Garden, which was Nexium's mind control for children, kinder care, or whatever you want to call it, or any of this stuff, CPS, foster care. We have a lot of these cases. I mean, how many times are we going to see a child murdered, tortured? You find out that CPS was there 20 times or something, or they're involved. The Clintons put a financial situation incentive on foster care and placing children, and without the extra added, backup, without any kind of control over that. And it became an industry, and it is an industry. And a lot of people, sex workers, you find, will have gone through CPS and foster care, and it's disturbing. And I think that also is with Antifa. But what I believe is that there's a mind control mechanism to it. I think if you go back and you look at the work of Aquino and other mind control people, Dr. Jolly, like some of these people, Kinsey, there is a situation where if you destroy a child's brain and you traumatize them to a certain extent, they become programmable for life. And we can hope that some of these children are able to be healed and all of that. But I do believe that there is an aspect to it that these children will, once abused, will become malleable for life, and they will become soldiers of the cause of Marxism or communism or Hitler's youth or Antifa, or they'll be marching in the streets for things they don't understand. Because again, I believe still that the powers that be, the trillionaire, billionaire, oligarchy, Davos banking cartel class, doesn't value human life at all. They only value their lives and their that thing. The other thing is, there's nothing more heinous than being exposed with blackmail of a child. And I think we can all agree that that is the worst of the worst. And this has been going on, like, there's a lot of stuff about this, but this has been going on a very long time in America and a very long time in general. But I believe that they use children on purpose because there's no way out. you can say that you were drugged or whatever when you get caught in like you're a straight man caught you're drugged, and this goes on everywhere. It's very big, and it's big in China and Russia and
Really?
everywhere else. This children are used for blackmail all over the world, and I really believe that that's another aspect of it. The other aspect of it is catching somebody with child porn. A lot of this is about that industry, which is huge and sickening, but people should look at the numbers. The porn in general is shocking. I didn't know anything about that. Look at these people. They're quitting being nurses and teachers to go on OnlyFans, making $1 million. Who knows? So many people wanted to do that. We had a porn
Crazy.
industry for decades. I didn't realize that like 3 of 5 of my neighbors in my building might want to actually be in porn the whole time. This is a new phenomenon, but it's not a new thing. It's just because of technology. There's new ways to monetize it and have outlets. And I just think that there's that as far as the blackmail side of it and the product side of it. Like I said, a lot of these people that traffic children, that product is the child, and that makes money every time. This is where it gets really upsetting that a lot of projects, at least that I know about, including Sound of Freedom, were never released because when I saw Sound of Freedom 3 years ago or 2.5 years ago, I said, if everyone sees this, they will never, ever, allow their children to go audition for any of these child singing competitions, or, you can make it in Disney if you go down all over the world. These things happen, and that's a big trafficking situation
Oh
as
yeah.
well. But on top of that, people would stop what was happening at the border overnight. And yet they're saying 300,000, and that's a small estimate, unaccompanied minors, which are trafficked children, have come through the US border since Biden became president, and they don't track them. They don't know where they are. People had sent me, I've gotten a lot of people, because we both get whistleblowers send us stuff, sending me like they all you have to do is pay $800 and fill out some form, and you can go grab a kid on the border. And guys showed me all this evidence. You can't really put it out there because you got to make sure, but it's like some of it I have. But the amount of stuff I've seen about the unaccompanied minors coming, we are aiding and abetting with our taxpayer dollars child trafficking, mainly sex trafficking, but also slavery. People aren't paying attention to the slavery side of this. Most of those people coming through the border, especially the children, are owned, and their parents back home, if those kids don't perform, are being threatened. And we're acting like we're in a humanitarian situation. It's only getting worse. And how many of those kids that are on Twitter and Facebook being sold or exploited are actually children that have parents somewhere that are being, used as fodder in some kind of sick, twisted, ring that's going on. But nobody. It's the truth is our FBI, and especially our CIA, who's been in on it from the beginning, they know. They know. They absolutely know. And I will tell you another thing about the LAPD knows a lot about what's happening in Hollywood. That's Adam Schiff and Ed Buck, is in jail for killing 2 young Black prostitutes, but really that's the tip of the iceberg. Is the biggest donor to Swalwell and Ted Lieu and Adam Schiff and Lieu and Swalwell, all down there near in Hollywood. All of these things connect. And I'm telling you that all these people connect in this web, and the web is included with our intelligence agencies. We, the people of the United States, also, how many things have been done in our government? I'm talking about bills being passed, money being laundered with omnibus bills, decisions made to go to war or not go to war, laws passed, regulations that were because somebody was blackmailed with this. We, the people, should be, if they have the evidence, Epstein evidence, Biden evidence, they have evidence of, all the way back, we should know how many things were done in the name of we the people because somebody was blackmailed with a child, and that decision or that EPA regulation. We're going to find out. The SEC, the Federal Trade Commission, probably the Treasury, they all knew about this kid at FTX. They were in it. They know. They knew. So the question is, and I see a lot of people talking about it, if the FBI and CIA, which JFK told us was a secret society long ago, and that included the children and exploitation of children. And, you look back and you see Bill Cooper and some of these other guys, and you're like, oh my, they were trying and trying. we still to this day have not seen even close to what is out there. And if we did, this would end overnight. The American people would rise up all as one without taking sides that are arbitrary or thinking they're left or right or Republican or Democrat or I'm for this cause or I'm that oppressed or and they would be overnight shocked at what the FBI has and has covered up when it comes to children and child trafficking.
And the big question for me as I watch all this unfold is, when does it stop? Because if you look at just where we're at in history, a lot of the people that are, say, progressives, it's almost like, well, what are we progressing to? Because I feel like that we're progressing back to Sodom and Gomorrah. We're progressing back to the worship of Baal and the sacrifice of children. I mean, even a lot of what they're doing with the fourth term abortions. It's like, okay, after the first, say, few months the baby's alive, it's still technically not born, and you can still kill it. I mean, it's satanic. I think it really is satanic, and you can see it's a little bit overwhelming because it's almost like everywhere we look in our society, you see this happening, especially once you start waking up to it. And this is, they talk about the dark night of the soul, right? When you really go through that experience of understanding the depth of evil in this world and understanding that there are people that could do these terrible things that you can't even hold a thought in your mind for a second without being so repulsed by it because it's so evil in nature. And so this leads me, and I want to get your thought on this. When does this end? I mean, do you think that these people will be brought to justice? Do you think that humanity will at some point realize that the people that we trusted are the same ones that have been trafficking children, murdering? I mean, do you think that there's any hope for everyone, or do you perhaps think that we're just going to continue down through this same path of going into this dystopian future that leads us into, the Hunger Games in a few decades?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I did a whole show on how we're in the Hunger Games already, but I have to tell you, yes, I do have a lot of hope for humanity, and I do believe that because these people are so arrogant and they're so in your face. When I'm telling you these hashtags and all of that, and everyone at Twitter had to have known how are they picking and choosing what to ban, but not saying they couldn't do that. Same thing with Facebook, same thing with Google. The problem is that it's our intelligence apparatus. We got to go back to the origins of what this is about when the OSS turned into, the CIA and the FBI and Dulles and Carney and what these people were doing and the Rockefeller connection to all of it and how these webs work and, go back to the round table to the CFR. These are big, big concepts. But the problem is, I don't think this current iteration of the rulers of the planet that I call the Fourth Reich are very smart. I really do believe that their biggest flaw is their arrogance and their need to put it in our faces through Hollywood, through sports, through commercials, through music, they control all of it. And the other thing is they've really, because of that arrogance and the online stuff, because when people ask me, I talk a lot about the global public-private partnership being the one world government, that people are looking for, the bunch of people that are sitting at a table and they're all deciding, like, say, the Bilderberg meeting or whatever, who's certainly in on it. But the truth is that you don't need to listen to me or to anyone else signaling out there. All you need to do is go to their websites. And their websites will tell you exactly what they're doing, exactly what they believe. We had 3 events in the last 2 weeks while we were dealing with another fraudulent election. I don't care what side you're on, you know that. And we were dealing with Donald Trump's announcement and then the fake DeSantis Trump BS and then other people calling him out, like, with giant distractions, just, Pelosi's husband. Wow, the global public-private partnership in cahoots with the Davos billionaire trillionaire class, in cahoots with the banking cartel that controls them all, are meeting in the G20. They're meeting in COP27. They're meeting in Indonesia, talking about the one world government and how none of us matter. And what I believe and what I want to work with you and other people on, because we need to really step out of this zone that we're on a side, because if we're on a side, they win. And these people, they have their plans down. They have been down from the beginning of Rockefeller breaking ground on the UN. Nothing's changed. They are all the same people. They just keep dumbing down their children and then promoting those same children through the system. You can keep dumbing down Harvard and Yale and Stanford as much as you want, but you're dumbing down your own offspring and your own grooming class that are now taking place. And they are taking the spots at Bilderberg, and they are taking the spots at the World Economic Forum, and they are dumb. They are dumb, and they are irresponsible, and they are nothing like Kissinger and Brzezinski and Rockefeller and the original people and MI6 and MI5 and all the people that created the plan for the globalist governance regime are gone, or they're very old, and they have replaced themselves with subpar people. And I think that the people like you and a lot of people out there that are pointing out what is going on globally are a lot smarter than these upper class heirs and monarchs kids and the kids that they pulled from the poison Ivy League to groom to take over the globalist regime running thing. They're not nearly as smart as the average, I believe, farmer or small business owner or mother homeschooling. I think that they have overestimated their replacements. And this is where I say what you brought up before, and I think this is really important to understand. All of the groups that are out there marching, Antifa, BLM, and there's some groups on the right too. I think both extremes, but we also ACLU, ADL, Southern Poverty Law Center, Human Rights Campaign, all of them, every single one of them is funded by a partner in the global public-private partnership, banking cartel, billionaire, trillionaire class, and usually multiple partners. Because if you go to Influence Watch and you look up any of these groups, any of them, you're going to find, which will happen with FTC, we're going to see that they had a lot of hands in a lot of democratic causes. What you're going to find is that they couldn't care less about gay, straight, black, white, immigrants. They don't care about any of this. The people that are dividing America from within are dividing every free nation from within. And at the same exact time, and opening the borders, but it is the same small group of people, about 3,000 of them that can be named as having any kind of power worldwide. And then most of them have like 1 million people in their web network, many of them blackmailed and bribed and committed crimes. You know how many of our local officials, not just put there by Soros, people talk about that. You know how many local officials are in on these globalist regime things like the smart city technology and contracts? And, they have this 40 cities in America that are partners with the World Economic Forum where the mayors sold out the people they don't even know. The global education is really what's going on here through Education International that is more powerful in controlling our unions. They have already set up the one world government without us paying attention. And all their frontline marching people down the street, especially Antifa, which started overseas and has migrated here and is very deep and very into the Nazi ideology, whether people want to say that or not, it's a fact, they are using these people. And these people will suffer the same consequences as everyone else, just like always. They might think that they're going to get away with it for long enough, but the people at the top of this game, which is a giant game to them, do not care about any of these people. And I think that people are starting to realize it. And what we really need to really put forward in what we do, you and me, because we go around, we talk to everyone we can, we meet as many people as we can. We want to give people hope and all of that. Bottom line is, we got to break the mold, the brainwashing, the control of all these little groups that think that they're, in one oppressed category or another, and make them realize, no, we're all in the same category, fighting the same puppet masters. And if we don't take back this country, and I'm talking on every level, including our financial system and, which is going to implode, and our government, we have a uniparty basically filled with criminals and criminals that have committed crimes. Like I say, if you want to break the COVID and go after these people, start with the money. If you want to break the election fraud, start with the money. Those crimes are easily trackable, traceable, have receipts for it, and you start there. But people aren't willing to do that. But if we, the people, demand it and start treating this government as we should, as employees, and we don't just look at them every 2 years or 4 years or 6 years when they're ready to run and we're bombarded with propaganda ads. They put $1 billion into the midterm elections. That's not a democracy to me. We have to understand we are all being bought and we are being sold. and we are already in slavery here, and we're all in it together. Once you get into the camps, it doesn't matter what color you are, your religion, who you have sex with, or anything. Once you're in the camps, you're all in number, and we are already numbers. And if the American people don't stand up and say, our sovereignty matters, our Constitution, our Bill of Rights matters, our borders, language, and culture are valuable to us, and we're going to stand side by side with people we think or we've been told are our enemy and say, not anymore. We're going to be united under this one flag, on this one giant piece of land, and we're going to be proud and fight back and keep our sovereignty and our laws. But I do believe that humanity is getting there. I just sadly believe that America is lagging behind because of our media and the amount of money these trillionaires and billionaires have put into our universities and now K through 12. So, it's incumbent upon us. But I will say here for the record that there is no left or right. There's no Republican or Democrat, as our parents taught us. There is a uniparty, and they are working for the billionaire, trillionaire, Davos banking cartel class, period. And if we, the people, don't just put aside just all the NGOs, all the marches, all of that, Hollywood's totally bought and paid for. It's the same 20 people yelling and screaming every time on this week because he let back Trump on Twitter. It's the same 20 actors. It's the same athletes. Understand, they have already sold their souls. They are in a cult. They don't have they get a printout of exactly what to say that week. All of the late night hosts, all of them, it all came out in the Judicial Watch 249-page drop about COVID and who was involved in the media, in newscasts, in sports, in late night hosts. They get the same drops every time. I saw a lot of people like, all the Trust the Plan folks very excited because David Brock left Media Matters, the biggest assassins of reputations and lives and futures and careers out there, a very malevolent, evil group of people that think that they're superior, but they don't. They are assassins in my mind of human lives. But no, he got a promotion. David Brock has moved on with his Democracy Matters stuff. And now he is getting a lot more money from a lot more of the public-private partnership oligarchies that run our country right now because we, the people, are allowing it. And he is starting a task force to knock down and fight with lawfare any investigation into Biden and his son and anyone in the White House. We should want investigations. We, the people, should say, why is David Brock and Media Matters and Soros and billionaires and trillionaires going to thwart any investigation into anything? If not, I bring up this quote a lot, which my audience knows by heart by now. But somebody that really taught me the most and has influenced my thinking and my work is Hannah Arendt, and she wrote in Origins of Totalitarianism that the best time for totalitarians, which is what the Global Public-Private Partnership, World Economic Forum crew, and all their agencies up there in Davos, and the banking cartel over in Switzerland, the best time for totalitarianism to take over is when the populace believes everything and nothing at the same time, when they think everything is possible and nothing is true. And basically everything we've talked about today is because of that.
Gosh, well, that's why, like, what you're doing, what I'm doing, what all the folks that are watching doing, that they're sharing this information, like, fundamentally, I look at it like we're all in Plato's cave. And,
Yes.
we see, like, some people see that, wait, there's this sky outside. We're in a cave, and most people are just distracted by the shadows in the wall. And I think the key is that we have to allow more people to see that they're just shadows on the wall, and they're being cast by manipulative people. They're trying to control you. And there actually is, like, once you can step outside of that, you realize that, wow, like, they no longer control us anymore. And I see it happening,
Right.
which is encouraging.
Me too.
I do see it's happening.
That's why I have hope. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I have to say for you and me, because this has been a journey for both of us, and we both kind of started this, like, I don't know, and I know you and your wife and me. I'm like, I just was like, I've had enough, and you guys made The Amazing Man in America, and Trump showed it, and it went viral. But you were you were a very serious investigative journalist, and really on top of stuff for 20 years. Your wife was documentaries and digging in for a long time. I was too. And what's been weird about this journey, that since we both started our shows, is it's been a learning curve. And I would say to everyone out there, not only, be careful who you watch and always do your own research. And I try to put on my resources page of my website a million places you can go to educate yourself. Don't listen to me. Especially, I always say, just go to the UN, World Economic Forum, World Health Organization, IMF, BIS websites. They're all saying the exact same thing. They are the one world government. And we have to accept this, that it's not a conspiracy theory if they're telling you. Just listen to Harari or Klaus Schwab or Soros and any of their conferences. But I do have to say that there's been a real divide between people that I believe are doing good in their own lane. And they're really, and I keep saying to people, start your own show, start this. I don't know. It's like every voice counts. And people don't know your background or my background unless they actually know us and know what we're saying and what we're thinking. And it's been a learning process for me. But I will say in the last year, I have had to correct myself, not what I'm saying as much, because I try to stick to, I've always been focused on, since I wrote a screenplay about Eichmann in Jerusalem in the late 90s. So I've always been digging into that and very hypersensitive to any kind of Marxist stuff and talked about it. And I've always written historical dramas. So that's something I do for 20 years. But I will say, I've been surprised along the way at people that I did think were, one thing and they turn out to be something else, or somebody else is something. And then you all get lumped in together. I think everyone has value that is doing, and I think it's very obvious who is trying to share information at whatever risk, because you and I put ourselves at risk often. This is it. We are all being tracked and traced. Everyone has to know that by this point. Your phone is not your friend. The social media is not benevolent. And but I think that there's so many good voices out there that I would encourage people, because one guy, that has a show says that one other guy or gal is a fraud or this and that. You know what? Maybe maybe there's a problem there, and it's that person. And I would say that there's so much great information out there. To go look at other people. Don't take so and so from this club, one club, and say, well, they said all these people are frauds. Well, are you sure? Because we're dividing ourselves. And another thing about what we do, you and I are on the Reawaken America tour. We're also on other tours, Health and Freedom and AmFed. We go to all kinds. I'm going to Arizona next week. What I will say is we got to open the tent to everyone, and everyone. And I mean, the people on the left, there are many Democrats that do not understand these progressive people. They're not on they're still picking a side, which is the problem to begin with. But we got to start opening up the tent to everyone. And I really hope that going forward, we realize that libertarian, right, left, Republican, Democrat, gay, straight, transgender, black, white, Asian, whatever, we are all in this together for real in America. It's not global. It's here. We fix our country. We protect our country. We save our borders. We save our children. Then we can do a lot of good in this world. But as long as we're sending our money to Davos or wars being laundered back to the Davos crew or the war machine crew or the banking cartel, which is the only people that ever benefit from war ever, then we're never going to get there. So I think a lot of people are awake and aware, but I really think we have to stop dividing, not just on our side, in general. And I look forward to working with you more on that. I call it a common ground. We've got to find common ground, or America is going to be stolen out from under us while we're fighting amongst ourselves, while they keep throwing fish food at us as fodder in the media, and we keep, fighting over it.
Oh, I agree. I agree. And that's, it's one thing that, because I'm kind of, it's kind of like how I was in high school. I was kind of friends with everybody,
Me
right?
too.
And they're like, Seth, why are you hanging out with that person? Like, well, he's a
Right, me
nice
too.
person. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't care about the clicks. And I think something that I tell people too is because, like I might, I'll interview General Flynn and people will say,
I know.
why are you interviewing? And I said, look, like I interview people that I know. You know what I mean? Or Clay Clark, people like, well, he's a Luciferian, Illuminati. It's like, I talk to the guy twice a week. He's like one of the
I know.
nicest, most sincere people I know. And I say, look, I interview people, like I know these people. Like I can
Yeah.
look them in an eye and I use my gut. And that's why I encourage people to do. I say, look, just use your gut. Whether you're watching Anderson Cooper, Tucker Carlson, or
Right.
Alex Jones, just use your gut and ask yourself, does this seem like the right information? And that's,
Yeah,
you know, because I think that using our gut is really using our divine intuition. That's, we have to
I
tap into
agree.
that. So Mel, I unfortunately have to wrap up because I've got something
I
else to
know.
get
I'm
to. And
sorry
it's
I
been
kept you
so wonderful.
long, but
Well, no,
thank
I
you.
felt bad because we actually had to put a time limit on this. And I was thinking,
That's
okay,
okay. I
this
was
could be a
late. That's
2 hour
okay.
show. So anyway, so Mel, where can people find your work? That's an important
Um,
question.
People can find my work. I'm at the best place to go also is the melkshow.com resources, because I have all my receipts there. Everything from my slides from the tour or when I speak, but also I have CIA, D-Class, all of the WikiLeaks, everything, links to lots of great stuff. So I ask people to, check out the resources page, do your own research. We have Thanksgiving and Christmas coming up. You can pull people into the tent. Start pulling people into the tent. They don't have to be on your side. They don't have to love Trump. They don't have to be any side. They just need to know the facts. And once we tell the facts, so my resources page is really a great opportunity for people to do their own research. Please
And this is
also
just
follow me on
themelkshow.com.
right. And if you hit resources and scroll down, people can see yeah, so scroll down there. So I do like what I look at every day, 45 papers. And then I do all this stuff that you can look at all these links on who funds stuff, trusts, foundations, think tanks, some of the biggest problems we have, looking into big government. So look at all these resources here. Please go check them out. Do your own research. Go to spend the next 2 months, telling people facts or asking questions so that they use their own critical thinking. We really need to open the tent to all Americans under one roof. And Rumble, BitChute, I am on Frank's Speech and Cloud Hub and
Podcasts. I follow you on a few
oh
different
yeah, I'm on
podcast apps.
Podmeme, I'm
Yeah.
on iTunes and all that. And then also I have the melkshow.tv if anything happens. And we're going to be putting up great content. I'm mixing it up a lot for 2023. Like I said, I changed a lot over the last 2 years of this journey. And I have a lot of, different thoughts, but that's called being human, and you evolve and you discard what doesn't work. You change directions, and it makes you better. And I think that's what's happening. And then I am on Truth Social, the Mel K Show, Mel K. Like I said, I was banned from Twitter and YouTube a long time ago. Who knows what's going to happen with that? And I am on Gab and Getter as well. But my main hubs right now are Rumble and Truth Social. So please check out my show. And Seth Holhouse, you're one of my favorite people on the planet. You know how I get when I see you.
Yeah, it's like seeing us like a
I run up
sister.
like, oh my God, because I'm sick of picking teams, and you and I are just kind of like we're just trying to figure out the truth and share it as best we can. So thank you so much for everything,
Oh,
and
it's great to have you.
and please say hi to your wife, and
I will.
thank you so much. You really are an inspiration, and your show is it's amazing. I watched it from the very first episode, and
Oh,
I'm
thank you.
really
Means a
honored to
lot
be
to
your
me.
friend.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mel. All right, take care.
Thanks.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.